Um, so I want to thank you again for joining us and spending a few minutes of your evening. I promise this won't be super long, but we really want to give you all the correct information about this great technology. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Dr. Kathryn Espana. I'm a pediatrician in Houston, Texas. I still practice medicine, although a little bit more on the holistic side, but I do still practice medicine here in Houston. I have my own practice. And I started using this technology about a little bit over a year and a half, honestly, thinking about my mom who has really bad arthritis. And I kept hearing how this could help, hopefully, get her off just NSAIDs and taking just pain pills every single day and having, steroid being injected into her like every 3 months. And she said she was done with that because the injections were very painful and then it would only last for 3 months. And so that's why I've decided to give it a try. Of course, I always try everything myself too. And, it was amazing how within a week or 2 weeks, she literally called me and said that she could close her hands. She called me actually to say that she was putting on gas, like gasoline, with one hand. And I was like, what do you mean? She goes, no, you don't understand. Like I had no strength in my hands. So I would have to use two hands. And it was really hard for me to put gas in the car. So for her, it was like amazing that she had strength. I mean, that was the thing that triggered was like, I went to go put gas in my car and it was easy and I was able to do this. So then after that, I started noticing things or hearing things about kids. And I will talk later on how this is not approved by kids. There's been no studies on kids, just like most of, especially alternative medicine. But as a pediatrician, obviously that is what drives me because that's what I do every day. And what I have seen in the last year or so since I've done it with kids, especially with kids with neurodevelopmental disorders, have been insane. So we will share a few testimonies after that too. Just wanted to say hi. And I know Rachel also wants to say hi and let you know how she got started with this.
Thanks, Kathrym. And again, thanks everyone for sharing your time with us this evening because time is our most precious commodity. So my name is Rachel Maurice, and I worked as an anesthesiologist in Canada for 20 years. I left in 2021 for freedom of choice for my own medical decision making. And in that time, I didn't think I was going to be gone very long. And so I had a lot more time on my hands, started doing a bunch of research and uncovering things that I was very surprised to learn that I'd not been taught in medicine. And one of those things happened to be the fact that how our body runs is actually run by light. All of the biochemistry, all of the physical nature, everything else is downstream from that. And the signals to get to actual sustainable changes within our body and expression of health comes from light. So I started diving deep into light, learning all about mitochondrial health, which are the little we understand as the powerhouses, but there's so much more. They are sensors, they are antennas, they are at the center of our health. And in my learning, there were a lot of different technologies that I came across, a lot of different things that I started to understand we could do to shift back to healing. And red light panels became a big thing for me. And then I came across these patches. And it was very timely because my mom's health was starting to decline significantly to the point where her doctors were talking about heart surgery. And having spent 30 years in the operating room, I knew that I wanted her to avoid surgery. Just the nature of intervention, there's always risk and complications. And I had seen just about everything. So, again, very timely. And Diane Hunt is on the call. She's the one who I ended up finding these patches and signing up with. And she was a cardiac surgical nurse for 20 years. So I knew she had the same background, understanding, experience, and mindset, or at least previous mindset, that of what took place and what we saw therapeutically and how people fared in the OR and afterwards. And she started sharing with me not just stories, but um, um, what am I looking for? Investigations like echocardiograms, electrocardiograms, of people who had been in heart failure after wearing these patches 6 to 12 months, no longer being in heart failure. And I actually just listened to a video the other day of a cardiologist who did a recent research study showing an 8% improvement in heart function, in the ejection fraction, the amount you can pump out in 30 minutes. Granted, he had more patches on than we would normally wear, but he wanted to make a point. And so it was a no-brainer to get started because, as you'll hear more about how these patches work, nothing's entering your body. It's using your body's own mechanisms. And to my surprise, I prepared my mom for her to give it a year because the healing takes time. The body takes time to heal, even though we are a drive-through society and think we push the easy button and everything happens overnight. I was surprised that within 2 weeks, she went from having to stop every 2 to 3 steps to catch her breath from her heart failure to walking with me for 20 to 30 minutes, talking with me at the same time and on an incline. So that was very significant. And then within 3 weeks, she had to have her thyroid medication lowered that she had been on for over 30 years. She had some other things that have happened since, but those are the big ones. And I will share more after if anyone has any questions, but just so we can get on with the presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. All right, so I'm going to share a little presentation with you guys. Oh, it's at the very end. We don't want that. Perfect. Just so you know, that this is live. This is not recorded as we deal with technology. So yeah, so today we are talking about the power of that little patch, the little patch that you see on the stomach of that lady. Actually, it's time for me to take mine on. This little patch that when somebody called me about 3 years ago to tell me that this little sticker, because it's literally a crazy insignificant sticker that you look at it right now, had all of those changes in the body, I literally told her, "You're crazy." I looked at it, and many of you guys, if you're here for the first time and this is the first time you're hearing it, you're probably thinking the same thing as we go through this. I told her, "There's no way that this could do what you tell me it does. There's no way that I'm going to see changes like that." And I just completely ignored her until I started noticing what happened with her family, and I knew what her mother-in-law was going through. And that's when I said, you know what, let me give it a chance. Let me actually look at some research, because I literally looked at nothing. I just listened and saw this and I was like, there's no way. But I'm going to share with you guys that this actually is, there is some scientific base with this. First of all, a disclaimer, this patch does not cure anything. This essentially just helps to give your body what your body needs to work the best way possible. But we are not going to talk about specific diseases or how it cures something. We're just going to talk about what happens in your body when you use this technology. So a lot of us, as we age, we've noticed that we have less energy. We struggle to kind of stay active. We feel like we can't keep up. You know, if you think about when you were young or your children, or some of you guys still had children or grandchildren that are young and you want to like turn off their, like you kind of want to find their off switch, right? Sometimes, and you're like, how can they have this much energy? They didn't sleep much last night and they're still rolling around like crazy. Well, most of us feel like this guy right here, right? We lack the ability to focus. And the reason is because as we age, essentially, our body starts changing, meaning our cells start aging as well. So most people think of aging as wrinkles, white hair, but really most importantly is what's going on inside our body. So as we age and we're getting those wrinkles, we're getting those gray hairs, our cells are also aging and they start losing its function. Okay. And so what happens is what we were able to do when we were younger, we're no longer able to do now. So imagine if we had a technology, which we do, and that's what we're here to talk to you about, that's going to help you feel more energized, think more clearly, be able to move more freely, walk and exercise without pain, without discomfort, can also reduce the stress that unfortunately, because of the world we live in, I think there's very few people that don't have inflammation and stress. And this essentially helps with that. So what I was saying is, as we're aging, our cells start changing. So by the age of 30, our healthy stem cells decrease by 60%. What are stem cells? Stem cells are those cells that can change into anything. So I always give the example of like a fracture. If my son who's 15, God forbid, fractures his arm, we put a cast on him, and usually 4 to 6 weeks later, his arm is great. He's good. They take the cast off. Sometimes they need a little physical therapy. Sometimes they don't even need that. And the kids just go on and it heals really well. So it's not the cast that actually healed that fracture. It is those stem cells that tell the body to create new bone cells to go in there and heal that fracture. But as we get older, if God forbid, I'm 46, I fracture my arm the same way, we know that half the time it's not able to heal the same way. So you might end up having with some sequelae, like some pain or some lack of motion, or you end up in the OR with like some plaques or things, actually have to go to the OR to make sure that they can fix your bone in place, because we know that our stem cells, only 60% of them are active and are working really well by the age of 30. And by the age of 60, they decrease by 90%. So that's what we're talking about, this technology. It's something that's going to activate. It's not like it makes new stem cells. It actually reactivates those stem cells that are there that are just not working as well because the way that we're aging, so our body can go back to working the way it did when he was younger. And I apologize. It is raining cats and dogs here. So if you can hear the thunder, I'm like hopefully scared that, our connection won't go away. So, first of all, like I said, when my friends, sorry, talked to me about this, I completely dismissed it. But when I started researching, when I saw what he was doing to her and researched a little bit of what happened, I realized that there is some science behind this, 100% science based. The person who invented this patches, his name is Dr. David Smith. I want you guys to write that name down, Google it, chat GPT it, find out more about him. He is a genius. He really now has over 200 patents. This slide is a little bit old, and over 80 clinical trials on this technology. This company is a 20-year-old company. I was very surprised when I finally started wearing these patches. I called one of my really good friends who lives in Denmark, very excited because she was very holistic, always wants something without medicine. And she came back to me and said, "Girl, I've been wearing those patches for 10 years." And I was like, "Wait, what? Where have I been?" So this is not new. This wasn't invented yesterday. Some although you've never might have not heard of it, this is not something that someone just like popped up out of nowhere and decided to, oh, let's put these stickers on people and see what happens. And the company has grown incredible in the last 3 years, thanks to this patch that we're going to talk about, which is the X39, because it does activate stem cells and because we're seeing so many amazing testimonies that simply the company is growing. It's in over 80 countries, and it is just growing more and more every single year. Ooh, probably heard that, huh? It was very loud. It is really thundering here. I'm sorry. So how does this work? How is it that this little sticker causes those changes in the bodies and those testimonies that we're going to see in a little bit? This, first of all, like Dr. Rachel said, there's no medicine in it. And so that's what really, really it has me so excited, because there is no side effects. There's no a person that can't wear this. It doesn't matter what treatment or what medicines you might be using. You definitely can still wear this to see how it can help your body. So it's non-transdermal. That means that there's nothing going into your body. Most people, when they think about a patch, they think of a nicotine patch, they think of an estrogen patch, they think of lidocaine patch for pain. All those patches actually have medicine embedded in them. So when you put it on, our skin, which is the biggest organ of our body, is able to absorb that medicine and then have it do its thing. So the cool thing about this is that it has nothing in it. It's simply is an empty patch. And that little white part in the middle, there are these little nanocrystals. So there's little crystals that simply act as, I call it like as a mirror. I know this is going to sound like science fiction. Every time I say it, people look at me like I'm crazy, but turns out that we actually emit infrared light. So humans, and actually all mammals, because a lot of cats and dogs and horses are also using this technology, we emit infrared light that we can't see with our own eyes. Because of that specific wavelength of light, our eyes are not able to detect it unless you wear specific night goggles, kind of like what the policemen or the military wear. And if everything's very dark, you notice that if a mammal or a human being moves, you see kind of like a red shadow. Some people call that red shadow energy, some people call it heat, but essentially is infrared light that we are emitting. So we put on this patch, we are constantly emitting this infrared light. So I call it wearable phototherapy. People are very in tune nowadays to go and get red light therapy, like at a spa or a chiropractor's office, and you sit there for 30 minutes or an hour. This is literally like sitting in there for the whole time, all day long. It's small amounts of infrared therapy using our own energy as the light source. So we don't need an extra light source like an infrared light. We don't need the sun. That's the first thing that people ask me. Do I have to go outside in the sun to activate these? No. Turns out our own energy bounces back off of this crystals. Like I said, it acts as a mirror. And for lack of a better word, sort of injects that energy back into us. And that wavelength of light tells our body to increase a specific peptide that's called GHK copper peptide. And that peptide is the one that is responsible for helping with inflammation and helping to reactivate your stem cells. So we all have a bunch of that copper peptide when we're born and when we're little. As we age, just like I said, just like we have less estrogen, we have less collagen, we also have less of that copper peptide. And so when we reactivate the stem cells when we increase the copper peptide is able to reactivate those dormant stem cells that help to fix, for lack of a better word per se, and help with inflammation and help with anything that's going on in your body, like that fracture that I was talking to you guys about before. This is essentially the power of this peptide. So it is not the patch, I tell people. When we talk about the benefits, I like to say it's not the benefits of the X39. It's the benefit of the copper peptide. The copper peptide was found by scientists like in the 70s. There is tons of research. You can go out and look for it on PubMed or anywhere, research about this particular peptide. A lot of the research was done in the dermatology area because it really helps to heal tissue. And so a lot of people were using that, and there's lots of like anti-aging creams and things that are, kind of hip right now that actually have copper peptide in them. But what's even better is when you're creating your own copper peptide, because most of these peptides, in order for them to work, they actually have to be injected. So if you take a peptide, if you drink a peptide, the bioavailability is just not going to work. You actually have to inject it. So, and I know people that do inject, and you can buy in Europe some of this copper peptide, but it's not going to be the same and it's not going to be as strong as if your body is actually creating its own copper peptide. So this is why I'm super excited. Really quickly, before I go on to some of the testimonies, I have 3 little videos I'm going to show you. I want to talk about kids first because this, again, there is science behind it, and I'm going to show you one of the studies. Over 80 studies, nothing done on kids. And I don't think anything will ever be done on kids because a lot of these studies are not done on kids. And I tell people usually the example is, believe it or not, Tylenol. If you go buy a bottle of Tylenol, it says in there, do not use in kids younger than 2. That is simply because there have been no studies on any kid younger than 2. But we all know that people use it starting at birth, starting at 2 months for pain. But the reason that they have that in there, that disclaimer, is just because legally they haven't done any studies on kids less than 2. So there's been no studies on kids. When I first started this as a pediatrician, obviously I heard everything that you're hearing now, that this is, rejuvenation. This is not really anti-aging, and we are helping to rejuvenate those old cells. And in my head, I go, well, the kids don't have old cells. The kids are young. The kids are 3, they're 5, they're 10, they're fine. So why would I use this technology on them? But quickly I've learned that not only does it activate your stem cells, again, it helps with detox because it also increases something called glutathione. It also helps with inflammation. And I think that's what is my theory, because there's no studies on this, what is helping a lot, especially these kiddos that have neurodevelopmental disorders. A lot of these kiddos have a lot of toxins. They're very inflamed. And when you help their brain kind of with that inflammation and with that toxins, I have seen close to miracles with those kids in the last year. So it's up to the mom. It's up to you how to explain exactly what it is if somebody wants to use it. Again, there's no clinical trials on them, but there's nothing that's going into their body. So there's nothing that's going to be harmful. So what I tell people is if you want to try it minimum for 3 months, but really commit to 6 months to a year if you want to see kind of long-term results. So here is one of the studies that one of my favorite ones, because I'm a very visual person. This is a topography map of the brain of a 77-year-old woman. You can see in session 1 where you see all that red. That is all inflammation. As we age, we tend to accumulate inflammation, whether it's because of age, because of a disease, because of the toxins. It is just the normal progression of what happens. But 3 weeks later on X39, you see there's a tiny little bit of red there, but barely any inflammation. And 6 weeks later, there's just a complete turnaround and better brain coherence. And so that's what we're able to see better focus. That's what we're able to see better just function of the body, because the brain is kind of like the computer of your body. So if your brain is functioning really well, it's able to tell all your cells and the rest of your body kind of what to do. So this study really blew my mind that only 6 weeks wearing this patch, you can actually have dramatic results on the brain scan of this person. So here I'm going to show you 3 quick videos. I apologize, the last video is in Spanish, but it does have subtitles in it. But I really, really like this lady's testimony, so that's why I wanted to show it to you guys. And hold on a second. I'm gonna share again because I think I forgot to share this sound. There we go. Sorry, hold on. So how long have you been wearing the patch?
I've been wearing it 2 months now.
Okay, and?
And I had a tear on my rotator cuff. I went and had an MRI done. It was 75% torn in my rotator cuff and then 100% torn on my bicep. And I started wearing the patch in lieu of getting surgery. Initially, I couldn't lift my arm above my head at all. I couldn't take a glass out of the cabinet. Now I can lift my arm above my head. I can take a glass out. I can't do a lot of weight, but I can do a lot more weight than obviously before. In addition to that, I had something going on with my sciatic nerve, and I started wearing I think it's called Aeon patch, and it went away within a few days, and I don't have any problem whatsoever. So I firmly believe in the patch, and I can plan on continue wearing it, and hopefully I'm going to hit the gym pretty soon.
So that every testimony that I ever show, it's actually a patient of mine, or that's actually a dad of one of my patients. And I just want to tell you guys that because I see a lot of things online or whatever, but these are actually people that I know. This is a kid.
Hey brother, I want you to see this, right? We were here at our church, and look at this kid. He's been using the patches for a month and a half, way before us, right? And this is him right here, and his mom. And he couldn't even do anything with his hands or anything. Look at this. Vamos. Con la otra mano. Con la otra mano. And now his mom is saying that he's drawing, he's talking to them. And she says she's been on the patch for a month and a half, bro. I thought you guys would appreciate it.
And that's what I'm seeing with my patients. I have kiddos that within a month or 2 months are focusing better, or have better movements. Some kids that had a lot of speech problems and now it's starting talking. It is pretty remarkable what I'm seeing with these kiddos that actually have neurodevelopmental disorders. And then this is the last one. Like I said, it has subtitles. I apologize, it's in Spanish, but I think it's pretty remarkable what this lady went through.
Bueno, les cuento que hace más de un año yo tuve una caída con fractura de cadera. Esa caída me postró en la cama por 3 meses, inmóvil, completamente rígida, que ni me podía sentar. Esa caída no me pudieron operar por la edad, 91 años. Bueno, pero gracias a Dios y a mi hija Margaret, que me mandó ese tratamiento de los parches X39. Y al cabo de un mes, yo empecé a sentir alivio en mi rodilla. Allá, terminando el segundo mes de tratamiento, mi rodilla, yo no siento dolor en rodilla. Las caderas han mejorado notablemente, así como la cervical que me sonaba cuando yo viraba la cabeza, ya nada de eso. O sea, en una sola palabra, me siento bien. Ay, tú me estás filmando, qué bueno. Para mandárselo a Margaret, porque para que ella vea que el tratamiento con los parches X39 estoy completamente fortalecida. De que antes yo no podía hacer esto. Ya limpiar mi casa, doblarme, pasar de escoba y entonces barrerla, porque claro, con mi edad 91 años y una caída con fractura de cadera, bueno, pero gracias a Dios y a los parches de X39, bueno, estoy completamente repotenciada.
It's insane. I mean, at 91 years old, if somebody has a hip fracture, most people just end staying in bed like that and they're not able to kind of heal properly. And so to me, I mean, I tell everybody there's no patch that's going to make me clean my house, to be honest with you, but that's what makes her happy. And that's what I love about this technology. I am here just to give people a better quality of life. Again, I'm not curing anything. I'm not curing diseases. I am here to help people have a better quality of life and get longevity and activate those stem cells. So I want to then send it to Dr. Rachel. She's going to tell us a little bit about what exactly is photobiomodulation, which is the fancy word for how I explained to you how the patches work, and then what is the benefit of this technology. I'm going to make it bigger again.
Bueno.
All right. Thank you, Kathrym. And just on the heels of that testimony with a hip fracture, that's one of the most common things that would come into the emergency department up in the OR on our emerge list. And they were sent through pretty quickly to have them done, fixed, at least in the OR, within 3 days, because if they were not fixed within 3 days, the mortality rate, the rate at which people would die, was very high. So dying after a hip fracture is quite common if it is not fixed. And so the fact that she did not have surgery and she used these patches, I have not seen that before. So thank you for sharing that, Kathrym. Like, that's unbelievable. That's unbelievable to me. And I spent my life in the OR. So yeah, just so people have an understanding of just how profound that is. Okay, so back to photobiomodulation, as Kathrym put it. So we're talking about the healing power of light. And while this seems like a very novel thing and novel therapeutic modality, it's really not. We evolved under sunlight. We have only in this modern world began living indoors and becoming these beings that were not exposed to the sunlight. So the original phototherapy was the sun. We woke up with the sun. We lived outdoors. We were bathed in natural light. It didn't have to be in direct sunlight, but that natural light, which has a full spectrum from all of the colors and the ultraviolet and the infrared, the red and the infrared, our body has evolved to use those as signals for all these physiologic processes that occur in the body. And most related that people can understand would be, we know that we have to go out in the sun. The ultraviolet B light signaling that we get makes vitamin D. That has become very highlighted, especially in the last 5 years. But it's not the sun that is creating the vitamin D, is the sun giving the signal and information in those frequencies for our body to then respond and make the vitamin D. The same goes with getting a tan. Now, most of us think of, I could go on for 2 hours about a tan and how healthy it is, which I'm sure you're not going to hear that in the mainstream, but the signals from the frequencies of light from the sun signal to our body to create that melanin, that pigment in our skin, so we see a tan. So this is not a new idea. It's not a new concept. It's really been around since at least man, but other organisms that have been on the planet. So it's really only in the last few decades that this term photobiomodulation has been thrown around as the scientific term for sunlight therapy. And it really just stands for photo meaning light, bio meaning the body, and modulation meaning change. So it is light making changes in the body. And it really focuses on the red light panels, which have red light and near infrared. So it's specifically near infrared because there's near, mid, and far, but near infrared because those frequencies target the mitochondria specifically. And there are a whole host of benefits. There's actually over 6,000 studies in PubMed, which is the repository for scientific research. So if you speak to anyone that has not heard about it, if you speak to your doctor that has not heard about it, and I've heard this lately from people that the doctor has not and said there's no research, there's over 6,000 studies. So you can go look those up or tell your doctor to go look them up. And it's verified. It helps with reducing inflammation. You might have seen it in the athletic world because a lot of they're, I would say, more on the forefront of cutting edge technologies because they really want to excel. So that it helps with speeding up recovery time, right? With tissue repair, with wound healing, reducing inflammation, reducing pain. And so this is a real thing. So as Kathrym said, this is wearable phototherapy that we are talking about with these patches. And now that leads into the benefits of the X39. These are only a small number of benefits, but as just like with the photobiomodulation, reduces inflammation and pain. And for those that are not aware, inflammation is at the foundation of almost all chronic diseases. So reducing the amount of inflammation can make a massive impact on people's quality of life, not just reducing symptoms, but even reversing named, quote unquote, named diseases, but reducing pain as well. Most people, at least 30% of the population walks around with chronic back pain, and there's more than back pain that's going on in people's bodies. So that, again, that's a significant portion of the population. It improves strength, stamina, and energy levels, which is, again, why the athletic industry is using it. Improves muscle and bone density, which is something that decreases as we age. Improves mental clarity and reduces stress. And I think that many people, at least people that I speak to, are really struggling with their cognitive function, with memory recall, with brain fog, with stress, just a reduced ability to even have a conversation, which then impacts their entire life and their social connections. And that's really meaningful. Connection makes a big difference in people's health. It helps with balancing hormones and easing anxiety. And anxiety is really ramped up especially in the last 5 years. And that affects our health significantly. It's quite dismissed in modern medicine to really have an impact on the physical nature of diseases, but it is really central to it because that anxiety and the stress physically causes change, the biochemical changes in the body, which lead to physical and mental and emotional changes. But improving hair growth and skin appearance. And, Kathrym touched on this in terms of how we age and we see white and gray hair coming in, and our skin appearance, the wrinkles that come and the sagging skin. And while those are aesthetic, at least we look at them as aesthetic signs of aging, what's going on underneath is really more profound. And this is speaking to the collagen in our body. And collagen is so very important. It's actually the most abundant protein in the body. It makes up 70% of the protein in our body. It is the infrastructure to our fascia network, which is really not something we're taught much about in medicine. I know in the operating room, it was really just to push the fascia aside to get to the organ. Really, other than that, nobody knew anything about it. And that fascia holds the ability to have this communication superhighway in the body. It is how collagen is structured is such that there are these nanotubules of water that run throughout the entire length of collagen, and light travels through the water network in our body. And so light is the means of communication at the speed of light, which is much faster than even the electrical impulses that we think about with the heart and the nervous system, but also the biochemistry. That's actually the slowest part. That's the slowest means of communication. So collagen is extremely important, and this improves collagen, and we see that with hair growth and skin appearance. But it also promotes cellular repair and wound healing. That's actually one of the first things that was discovered when it was GHKCU was discovered in 1973 by Dr. Lauren Picard, if anybody wants to look that up, because there's 50 years of research in PubMed on GHKCU. And improves sleep quality as well. That's something that I know many people have shared with me. Oh, I haven't really noticed much, but my sleep is better and I have a bit more energy. Sleep is when all of the healing and regeneration takes place. So sleep quality is at the foundation of healing. So long-term results for this patch, in the first few days, over 4,000 genes begin to reset. And I just want to go back to something Kathrym said about children, like we talked about stem cells. Well, why kids are young, they don't need these stem cell activation. But the GHKCU, that is only one thing that the GHKCU touches on. It actually resets over 4,000 genes. And just to give context, we only have about 20,000 genes in our genome. So resetting over 4,000 is, I don't know anything else that does that. I've never heard of anything else doing this. Within 6 weeks, the brain becomes balanced, and we saw that with that topography map earlier. And within 3 months, collagen is increased. And so I touched on collagen and how critical that is. And within 6 months, the heart reverses in age. And this David Schmidt has coined this phrase. It's not anti-aging, it's age reversal. It's really rejuvenation and regeneration of things that we're taught are not possible to regenerate. So how do we wear this patch? This is one of the best things. And I was so excited for my mom when I learned about this, because really it's difficult for my mom's 84. And as we get older, we forget to do things, we just, if it's too much effort, it's just not worth it. This is one of the simplest things that is out there, and it takes 0 time, 0 effort out of your day. It's less time than brushing your teeth, and you brush your teeth every day, right? So it's a little sticker. And as Kathrym was sharing, I still have mine on my wrist here. It's just small. You peel off the backing, you stick it on your body, and we'll talk about placement in a minute. You wear it for 12 hours, you take it off. There's still a little bit of life left in it. So you can, I myself have been putting it on my dog the next day for the last 4 to 6 hours. And I know since I was sharing that, a lot of people started doing that. And I'm hearing the most incredible testimonies about dogs, and I can share about that afterwards. But then you repeat the same day, the next day, and you continue that. As Kathrym said, really a trial is 3 months, but you want to commit to, the recommendation is a month for every decade that you've been alive on the planet, but it depends on your goal. I personally, because of everything that I have seen and spent 30 years in medicine in the hospital setting, I don't ever want to go there if I don't have to. So this is my preventative strategy. I will do anything to avoid any kind of intervention in the modern medical system. That's me personally. And you want to make sure you drink plenty of water. So I alluded to that earlier when I talked about collagen and the collagen network in your body. You want to make sure that you are hydrated, because light travels through the water network in your body. Okay, so now what to expect. We want to make sure that we are thinking about issues that we have in our body, not necessarily names of diseases, because really at the bottom of every single disease is cellular dysfunction. So this helps with cellular repair and cellular rejuvenation. So it works with everything. So you want to think about what's going on maybe with your brain, with any joints, if there's any pain, or if you got gut issues, that kind of thing. You want to write things out. But having said that, everyone is different. So you don't want to compare yourself to what other people have experienced and think that that's going to happen to you in that kind of time frame, because we all come to this world with a different set of genetic instructions. We grew up in different environments, different toxic loads, different trauma, different number of years on the planet. We all have just a different set of what's going on in the body, and our own body is going to decide what needs to be fixed and in what order. And so while, for example, a friend of my mom's who had these headaches really wanted those headaches to go away, in 2 months, they hadn't gone away, but he was no longer wearing his reading glasses. So his body decided it needed to fix his eyes first. So the patches go to work where needed, and they do work on everybody every time, given enough time and given the right inputs. So if you're tired, that can happen as well at the beginning because, and I share this example because it's the most pervasive and most people can understand, just like a cell phone, if you've got a full battery, everything in your phone can work. But as you get to 50%, 30%, down to, I don't know when it says low battery mode, 10%, well, it starts to shut things down and it only has some functions that work. It's the same thing in your body. When you don't have the amount of energy you need to run your whole body, it's going to shut certain things down. And when you get tired, it means it's trying to conserve your energy and put it to work for healing. So just honor that fatigue, allow yourself to rest because the energy is being used for healing. So you want to make sure you get that extra sleep. You want to make sure you're breathing properly. Most of us in society don't actually breathe properly. We breathe from our upper chest and our accessory muscles, but we really need to do diaphragmatic breathing to pull in the oxygen because the oxygen, the end point of where that oxygen goes is actually to make energy in your mitochondria. So I'll let Kathrym, you wanted to take back over?
Sure. So we heard all about how this works. We heard, I told you guys, how the patch works, where it came from. It has all the scientific base. And the next question people say, if you're ready, I tell people to minimally give yourself 3 months to decide whether what you feel or not feel. Everybody starts feeling things differently. And some people don't feel anything. And I tell people at the same time, what do you feel when you take blood pressure medicine? What do you feel when you take, insulin? You're not feeling anything, but you know that it's doing something in your body. So that's the first thing that I tell someone is don't expect some sort of feeling miracle. But most people start noticing some sort of change within 3 months. So if you're ready to get started wearing these, there's 3 different ways that you can actually get this technology. First of all, talk to the person that invited you. They do sell these at Amazon. They do sell these at Walmart, and those are all resale. So these resale patches are not coming from the company. I have no idea where they've been. These patches are also very sensitive to heat. So if you have them for over, I think it's 80 something degrees for more than 7 days, essentially, for lack of a better word, it's like those crystals melt and then you have like empty patches. Patches are not going to work. So you don't know where those have been when you buy them from Amazon. And then worse, when you buy them from Walmart, I've seen that these patches actually come from China and these are not made in China. And so I don't know, it could be just empty patches or God forbid, it could be that they actually have some sort of substance that it's going to be harmful to you. So I don't know what's in those. So just make sure you buy it directly from the company in a distributor. And you have 3 options, like I said. You can be a retail customer, you want to try it, you want to buy it once and have no commitment whatsoever. It's about $150 for 1 month supply. So they come in little, they call them a sleeve, but essentially is an envelope with 30 patches in them because you use 1 a day. You can become a preferred customer and you can get wholesale pricing. So you get them for about $100 a month, which is really $3 a day. It costs less than going to Starbucks every day. And with a monthly subscription, you get that discount. Or you can become a brand partner or distributor. You get the same, it's still $99 per one, but you get a choice of 3 different packages when you become a distributor. As a distributor, you don't have a commitment, really honestly, to sell. And you don't have a commitment to a monthly thing unless you want to do this, as a business, but you have 3 options. You have a package that's $17.50. For those of you that have a big family, I have people that say, I want my mom, my sister, my grandma, everyone to use them. This is sort of a better way to go because you're going to get better pricing for buying a larger quantity. Then we have the advanced, which I feel like this is perfect for like maybe a couple, again, because I want you to try at least 3 months. So you have 3 months for one person, 3 months for the other. And then I call the core package sort of like the individual pack. You'll have 3 months of X39s for you to try for $295. So whether you want to do this as a preferred customer and try it, or you want to be able to buy one of these packages, just really talk to the person that invited you here. They will send you a link and they will tell you exactly kind of how and what's the best way for you to purchase it. But for the last 5 minutes or so, I wanted to have a conversation with Rachel because most of you guys are sitting here going, okay, these two doctors, yes, they're giving me all the science, but now they're saying you go online and you buy these patches. So to me, like I said, when I first started this, I heard from a friend, I wanted my mom to try this because that's the first thing that I thought of. It's funny that Rachel, it's the first thing she thought of as well. Never in my life did I ever think this as a business. And in my mind, as a doctor, I still think that the most important thing is the health and the wellness of my patients, my family. I tell everyone, but with every good product, the business sort of comes on its own. I also think that we have to be really smart. And after COVID, especially, I became really aware that we have to diversify our income. And so, I had my own practice, which was closed. And so there's no patients, like there's nothing coming in. We have zero income. That was closed for however long. My husband, thankfully, he is employed by the hospital. And so hospital was open and he was there and we had his income. And so we decided after that we would get really smart and kind of come up with different ways. So nowadays, I tell you, we have his salary, we have my practice, we have sort of a little Airbnb thing that we do. And then to me, Lifewave came to me as a blessing because I feel like this is part of my 401k. That's the way I look at it. I am going to be able to continue no matter after I want to retire to be able to help people with their health, to bless so many people. I mean, the changes I'm seeing without, medications are crazy, and I can do it all just on my phone. So it doesn't matter where I'm at when I want to have more time freedom, enjoy my family, enjoy eventually my grandkids, travel the world. I don't have to be stuck in an office to where if I don't show up, I'm not going to be able to help people with their health, and I'm definitely not going to be able to have a source of income. So that's why I decided, although I used to run away from anything kind of like this, I've learned Lifewave is so different. The Lifewave community, as well as just Lifewave, the company itself, it's nothing like what I thought maybe some of these multi-level marketing companies, what I had in my head of them being. So nowadays I can tell you, you don't have to do a business like this, but if for some reason there's something inside your mind that you're like, I wonder what would it take, and to maybe share with other people, please talk to whoever invited you and they can go a little bit further and deeper in how they got started in having their own business like this. And then I want Rachel to kind of share why, as a doctor, I know that you kind of got away from medicine, but why did you decide to do Lifewave in general and share with others?
All right, thanks. I actually didn't know that part of your story, Kathrym, so thanks for sharing that. And along the same lines as Kathrym, my understanding growing up and just in my career was I exchange my time for money. I did not know any different. I had no forethought or side thought. I didn't have any time to even think about doing anything outside of medicine. When I needed more money, I just worked more. I worked nights, or I asked people to pick up their shifts on weekends and do more call, which really just destroys my health. But that's all I knew. And so again, the same thing as Kathrym, for me, this has been a real blessing. And there was no intention at the beginning I had no idea how this worked at all. I've never done network marketing. My only exposure to network marketing had been several of the OR nurses who were involved in some company. I can't even remember the name, but it was some skin cream that it got to the point where I would go down a different hallway in the OR because I didn't want to have to speak to them again and say no for the 20th time. So that was my feeling about network marketing. I'm not like that. I don't like to push things on people. That's not me. I don't like to sell things. So when I got involved, this was a technology that I wanted for my mom. I didn't care how I got it. I wanted my mom to use it. That was what was most important to me. So we got started. I had this background now of having studied light for a couple of years and super excited about the way it worked. And I couldn't not talk about it with people because everyone I know when you're a doctor, everyone tells you their problems. Doesn't matter like where you go, they just, everything comes out and everyone is struggling. Doesn't matter what medications they're on, they're not getting results. Even from alternative, they might get some type of short-term, but not sustainable change. And so I was just sharing, saying, this is what I'm trying. Do you want to try it? A friend of mine with sciatica for 5 years, gone in 3 hours. I mean, I just said, do you want to try it? You got nothing to lose. There's absolutely nothing to lose. There's no side effects. There's no contraindications. There's no risk. There's no risk. Really. The one thing I tell people who are on medications is make sure you are staying in contact with your healthcare provider, because you're probably going to have to lower your medications, or they're probably going to have to lower them, right? So you don't want to just not see anyone or not continue to see anyone. But I just started sharing because there was zero downside. And, I just heard the other night from a friend who's on the call, who, when I shared the price, she said, "Are you kidding me? That's it? That is so cheap." Meanwhile, I hear from a lot of other people how they can't afford it, yet they're buying Starbucks daily, and they're buying their wine, they're going out for dinner. And my mom was telling me about a restaurant she went to the other night. The steak was $60, just the steak, right? So when you think about it, it's a matter of priorities. But that aside, I started sharing, and I was trying to build this concierge consultant practice to help people with their health outside of anesthesia, obviously, but in a way that people really had to take responsibility for their health and change their lifestyle and pay out of pocket, unfortunately, because that's not what we're paid for in medicine when you're employed by the government. And it was really difficult, especially in Canada, because people didn't want to pay. And so it was very slow going for me. I was plugging away, but the minute I started sharing these patches, which I started to see unbelievable results with, as you've just seen from the testimonies, the videos of Kathryn's patients, and I literally could go on, and I can share more if people want to hear, but I just started to see money coming in and thinking, well, this is a way that I can support myself, because I walked away from my career. Like, I walked away from a stable, very nice, cushy income that I was supporting my family with. And I'm a single mom, and I was the financial breadwinner for the family. And so I walked away from that because, for me, my conviction to truth and, integrity, I would say, it was, I didn't know what I was going to do. And I am now seeing, I am helping people in much more alignment with what I believe to be about real health, because we're not taught about health and medicine. We're taught about managing disease. And this is transforming lives, like, on an exponential level. Like, if you don't get involved now, you will probably regret it later. That's all I would say. Honestly,
Absolutely. It's the same thing as my husband. I'll close it at this. And if you guys have any questions, I'll take a look at the chat real quick. But we were in a meeting in Mexico, and the way that he said, I thought it was great. He wrapped the patch and he goes, "Okay, I think this is definitely the very beginning of what medicine's going to be in the next 20 years or so." And, he goes, "Who knows if we're going to walk into a little room and there's going to be this like light thing. Okay, just cure your cancer. You're done." Like, and he goes, "Who knew that we were going to have a computer in our hands in this short amount of time?" I mean, I think most of the people that are on here remember, like, when cell phones weren't even around. And then we had this huge cell phone, and then we had one that you opened up, and then we had another one that you could sort of text, but it was like little. And then now we have a freaking computer in our hands. Like, when I can remember, we didn't even have computers. So technology is advancing so fast. You were talking about cheap, and I'll end it here. It is so cheap. I follow this great doctor out of Austin who's doing an amazing thing with kids. It's this neurologist with lasers and light therapy. It's $10,000 a week just to see him to get treatment, and you need several weeks. He now has a laser that you can buy, and you can take it home and do home therapy, but the laser is $20,000. So not everybody can afford, those expensive treatments. In my opinion, absolutely everybody can afford this. And what has me even more excited is the people that tell me that they really can't, because I do have some single moms you have a kid who, is on the spectrum, you can't work. And I tell them, share it with 4 or 5 people and your treatment's free. I can't do that with any other medication or any other treatment that I've ever given to a patient. Unless I was going to pay for it, which I've done in the past for other things because I wanted to, I could not tell them, share it with 4 or 5 other people, bless 4 or 5 other people, and you'll make money to pay for your treatment, and your son will never run out of their treatment. So that's why I'm super passionate about the product as well as the business side, because you decide what you want to do. But if you can't afford it, share it with a few people and you'll be able to afford it. So we're right at an hour. I was hoping to do this shorter, but I think we went on. I apologize that it was a little long. But if anybody has any other questions, I'm looking here at the chat, or you can unmute yourself. How does it compare to being grounded outdoors often in the natural sunshine in activating stem cells, Rachel?
Yeah. So grounding does not activate stem cells. Grounding has incredible benefits. I do it, and I think you came from Justine. Justine's I absolutely adore Justine. Grounding is amazing at reducing inflammation. You're pulling in electrons, which helps with, the terminology, increasing redox potential, really boosting our energy, our ability, but it does not increase or activate stem cells.
Good. Somebody said over 80 degrees, should I refrigerate them? No, I mean, if you have them inside your house, it should be fine. I would just have them in, a, not so hot. If you have air conditioning or whatever, it should be okay. But if it's really hot, the company says for over 7 days, then it can, activate them, and essentially they don't work. And to the point where those are like the keywords. If you are like out of town or something, I mean, I live in Texas, so it's, it's very hot here. In the summer, it's over 100 degrees. And so you need to make sure, I always tell everybody to FedEx it. So it's only in 2 days, because I did UPS and it went 2 weeks around for me to get it in a hot truck. I mean, I don't know what happened there. So you call the company, which is another reason why you have to get it directly from the manufacturer. You call them and you say, listen, this got to me really late. It's really hot in here. No problem. They sent me a whole new batch. Okay, so the keywords are over 80, more than 7 days, over, 90 degrees. I was out of town. They came, they sat in my mailbox too long. They will send you a whole new batch, no questions asked. And so that's another reason why it's very important to get them directly from the company. Anybody else have any other questions before we end the call?
Okay. Hi. Great presentation. Thank you. I mentioned that my dog, I tried putting it on my dog, and because of her fur, it would just fall off. But someone just mentioned there in the chat that I could put it on her collar. Really? It would still work?
Absolutely.
But I don't know. It might fall off her collar too, because the stickiness starts to go away. I don't know. I'm open to any suggestions.
It will still work, or you can put some tape around it too to kind of keep it on it, and it will still work. And to be honest with you, I have an issue too with kids that are on the spectrum and they don't want anything on because they have lots of sensor issues. You can actually put it on your clothes and it will still work. And David Smith, who is the inventor, says, I mean, even without taking the sticky part, if you put it on your pocket, it's going to work because you are emitting light essentially up to like 8 inches outside your body. So yes, on the collar, it will still work.
And for how long? I'm sorry. And for how long would I leave it on her after I take it off myself?
12 hours, same thing. So some people will take it off and then put it on their dog immediately through the night. So about 12 hours, same thing.
Okay. Do I need to put it on her immediately after I take it off, or can I wait in the morning and have her wear it in the daytime? What would be better?
It's usually better immediate, because if you have it laying around like in your, and then you wait till the morning, then some time have gone through. Essentially, most people, nobody really knows, but they say around 24 hours that's active. So sitting there at night for 8 hours, then it's going to have a little bit less activation.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you so much.
I'll just insert that I would take it off and put it on my dog's collar and then put it on her the next day. So I would tape it around her collar, put it on her the next day, because I also know some friends who put it on their dogs literally right after, and they didn't twig to this till later, but their dogs were constantly keeping them up through the night. So there was an increase in energy with their dogs. They switched it, and then the dogs went back to their normal schedule of sleeping. And also my dog has had some throat issues with her trachea. So I actually just got a little, she had surgery, she had teeth taken out, and I got a little a little jersey, a little shirt to put on her and put the patch on that. So that's also, you know, so you can do that with a dog.
Good idea. Good idea. Good idea. So, all right. Well, thanks again for joining us. We're going to try to do these a little bit more often, but thank you. Thank you. Talk to whoever invited you if you have any other questions. And then we're here for any questions you guys need. So thanks. Have a great night.
Thank you.